Hello and welcome to this video. The topic for our discussion today is an interesting poem by Edmund Tumbo which is titled Words. This poem is special for many reasons, and one of those reasons is that it comes from a poet who is considered the godfather of Singaporean poetry because Tumbo was the one who pioneered English literature in Singapore. And his poems not only offer the stages of his life or his own development as a poet or as an individual, but they also record how Singapore has developed socially or politically. As a sovereign country with an identity of its own, with its unique culture, with its different languages, with its diversity, Ulysses of Merlion is deemed as a landmark in Singaporean literary history. And this poem explores issues of the poet's relationship with his homeland, and it is recognized as the first ever attempt to forge Singapore's history in poetic form. And this poetic piece is viewed as a crucial step both in Tumbo's personal history and in the history of Singaporean literature. The struggle which Singapore underwent to define itself after years of colonial rule, creating its own identity, creating its own history. That experience, that struggle is well depicted, well recorded, well charted in this poem, making it almost a canon, especially in reference to Singaporean literary history. Tumbo has many awards and honors to his credit, and those of you who are planning to go for competitive exams can scroll through Wikipedia to fetch more factual information. But for the time being, I'll share some of the facts about Tumbo. Tumbo did his English honors from the University of Malaya in 1956, and he wanted to apply there for a position, and even applied, but his application was rejected for certain reasons, and then he worked for 9 years in the civil service, and he ultimately managed to join the university. And in 1966, when Singapore got its independence, he got the name changed of the university from University of Malaya to University of Singapore. And later on, the University of Singapore and Nanyang University were merged together to form the National University of Singapore. And therein, Tumbo worked as the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. In fact, he is one of the longest serving deans of that faculty. And Tumbo has also held fellowships at universities in Australia, in the UK and in the US. And currently he is working as the Emeritus Professor at the National University of Singapore post his retirement. And this displays that Tumbo is not only a renowned poet, but he is also an acclaimed academician. Well, that's Tumbo for you, and now we'll move on to the text of the poem. Please pay attention to the text of the poem on your screen. Words are dangerous, especially the simple kind you leave behind for others, for undesirable relatives and assorted purposes. They are understood simply, edited, taken with a kind of air, a careful disregard. Their plainness complicates. When you say, "Tell him please that the anger has come to pass, that friendship is not maimed, or please do come but after the fever has been put aside," when you mean to be polite, careful, explicit, considerate, circumspect, adopting the proper tone, you're likely to be quoted as saying, "He won't." Words are neither valid, merciful, nor bad in themselves, nothing unless used, asked, imparted into dialogue, becoming part anger, part laughter, bruised, adding to the mood and gesture. Words are words. Except for us, they're not personalities. We make them into poems. Well, students, this poem is about the importance of using your words carefully and the impact to which it can cast on your relationships, and why you should avoid certain kind of words, and why you should be wary of displaying a negative attitude by using the words, as words are pretty capable of conveying your attitude. So you can choose wisely which attitude you want to communicate, negative or positive. And the opening lines of the poem assert it very carefully that words are dangerous, especially the simple kind you leave behind for others. So in the beginning, the poet states that the words are dangerous, especially those words are dangerous which you speak at somebody's back, which you speak on somebody's when somebody is not present there, you speak about somebody at their back, those words become dangerous. Now, why do they become dangerous? He will reveal it later. For undesirable relatives and assorted purposes. So these words can be dangerous, can be made dangerous by the relatives, by your undesirable relatives who have the ability to make a mountain out of a molehill. Those who can manipulate your words, can mince your words negatively, and can quote you out of context, and because they have their own assorted, they have their own hidden agenda to defame you or to go against you, and they can quote your words. So those words become very important, which you speak when somebody is not present and you talk about them at their back. So those words are very dangerous, or they can be very dangerous. He further states that these words can be understood simply because they are simple words, but the person next to you who is against you or who doesn't like you will simply edit the words because they are simple and they can be manipulated easily, and he will use your words for his benefit by mixing it, by mincing it with his own negativity. And so you should be very careful because even the words which you think are plain can be manipulated, can be attributed with a negative meaning, and they can communicate your negative attitude which can affect you or your life. So you should be careful about your words. In the next stanza too, the poet continues to expand on the same idea of choosing our words wisely, maintaining that words can reflect our character. Often when we say something about someone else, we actually end up saying something about ourselves instead. That words can damage relationships, and hence it becomes crucial to focus on the right communication so that we could be understood and our message gets communicated positively. And in this stanza, the poet implies that one should be extra cautious and discreet while choosing and using his words in anger, because he might use harsh words in the heat of the moment, and later he would be left with regret that his relationship got soured, that it got crippled, his friendship got crippled by his sheer choice of words, choice of harsh words. And then he won't be able to do anything, though he would go to his friends seeking forgiveness, but maybe his friends won't be able to forgive him because the damage would be already done, and his friends won't be able to forgive him. And so the poet asserts that one should never use mean words in anger because your anger would subside, but the damage which is already done won't be erased, it won't be rectified. So one should apply a proper tone, a proper gesture while using and communicating his ideas, because if you want to assert yourself as exact, inaccurate, amiable, or compassionate, or you want to present yourself as discreet and cautious, you should use a proper tone. Otherwise, you would be misinterpreted by other people and it will affect your relationships. Your relationships can get damaged by your choice of harsh words in communicating. So people won't be able to take you positively. People won't be able to forgive you, or they would judge you according to your words. So it's better to use your words carefully and wisely. In the next stanza, the poet asserts that words in themselves do not signify any meaning. It's we who attribute our emotions to the words. It can be the emotion of anger, laughter, or of hurt. And once we would charge the meaning, then only it will get communicated through words. But words in themselves are nothing. They don't communicate any meaning unless we attribute our feelings to the words. Words in themselves are not valid, they are not good or bad. They are just words. It's we human who attribute our emotions, good or bad, positive or negative. We assign our values, we assign our emotions to the words, and then they communicate those emotions for us. And we do it by using our mood and gesture, and that same mood and gesture gets communicated by our words when we make it into a dialogue. Even in the concluding lines, he states that words are not words except for us. That is, it's we who make the words what they are. It's we who attribute meaning to them. It's we who assign meaning to the words. Words are not personalities at their own. And it's we who assign them personality. It's we, the poets, who make poetry out of them, which communicates our ideas, which communicates our emotions. Words in themselves are nothing, but actually we communicate our ideas, making it personalities. This poem is also beautiful because it asserts the meaning-making power of language and the way Thumbu has used language to craft his text in a playful way that reflects his love for the language. And in this poem, Thumbu's choice of diction deserves a special mention because he has used words very carefully, which is actually the theme of his poem. And the words which he has made use of in this poem are simple yet elegant, and the phrases which he makes use of in the poem, they communicate his message quite emphatically. Besides, the poem has a natural rhythm, natural speech rhythm to it, which adds to the beauty of the poem. And what makes the poem special is the combination of style and thought, which Thumbu has managed to amalgamate quite beautifully. I hope the poem is clear to you. Should you have any doubts or queries, please don't hesitate to leave the comments. And thank you for your attention.